What's up guys, Jordan from Bennett's Customs. We're back on another episode. And before we get started, I wanted to announce the winner of this creative series that we've been doing over the last month. We have had a massive amount of submissions. You guys have emailed through past, present, and future projects, whether it's as small as the internals of a vintage watch up into a massive 1954 bus that is getting completely restored inside and out. We got top three was Todd Cannon, and he built a beautifully handcrafted aluminum roadster pickup. Looks like it's powered by a small block Chevy, but everything from the frame to the body itself and all the pieces in between were fully handcrafted by himself. A lot of work, looks beautiful, proportions are really neat, and I think he's done an amazing job. Very close to that was Liam Prefontaine. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your last name right. He is creating a 9-foot hammerhead shark out of steel, which was really, really cool. It caught my eye, and I thought it was really neat because in his email he had explained that he's done a lot of kind of flat metal, sheet metal work previous, but never really anything with really tight compound curves and reverse curves. And so he decided he wanted to make a wire buck that was in the shape of a 9-foot hammerhead shark. I am really excited to see the progress that he will have with it, and eventually be able to see the finished product hanging up in his workshop. Another gentleman, mainly we wanted to pick as the winner for this month, was Garth Hickey. He is building a 335 Ferrari replica for a gentleman to take his disabled kid walking in style. So he's making, you know, everything from the proportions of a correct 335 have then been shrunk down, and he's creating it all out of aluminum to keep the weight down. And it's going to be powered by 12 volt, and it's going to be a really, really cool little project. Don't be discouraged that, you know, these three people that we've kind of picked as the top three their skill level is definitely quite high. It's really neat that you guys are getting out into the shop or your shed or wherever you are, you know, getting creative with your hands. So make sure, if you haven't, keep submitting your creations, your builds, whatever you guys are doing, any of your projects in, and we will continue to do this over the next month as well. For Garth Hickey, we will be getting in contact for you so that we can send this little merch pack that we have for you. And we are excited to see who the winner is going to be for the end of this month. Anyways, back to regular programming. Let's get into the episode right now. We are back on the Radial Flyer. In this episode, I want to cover a couple things underneath. We have two Crossmembers that are factory, very thin and quite heavily damaged, that I would like to replace with a thicker material, a little bit more custom, and also kind of allocating for a space where we can get a little bit more air for that radiator that we have mounted between the frame rails. What I want to do is, this is hindering a lot of air passing by to get up into the radiator itself, but it is a cross member and it is important. But what I want to do is make the same thing, but maybe just have a little bit of a notch. So if I could bring this out and then kind of come up, go across, and then back down. So it's still going to be strong. We are going to be upgrading. This is like, I don't know, it's thin stuff. This is probably maybe 20 gauge. And what I have is a sheet of 2 mil. So I am going to be upgrading it heavily. By 35 by 61. Eight.
All right, so we got all of our pieces cut for our cross member. I did use Liam's brake, and we just broke this little 10 mil flange along the top, and that's what's going to be welded up into the top piece. It's hard to see on these two pieces now, but after I cut them out, you'll see what I'm doing. But I am trying to utilize as much of the 3D material. So I've laid it all out in 1D, and by the time I cut everything and bend it all, it will have two pieces that will come together and it will create the whole bottom side. I was able, because we don't quite have the specific dies to be able to put into the brake, and there's this overhang, so unfortunately we're not able to get it in there to be able to do these. So I've just gone on the inside of the line, I've just run the grinder down there lightly, and that kind of makes a point of where it can break, and then you get these really nice radiuses, and then everything kind of bends on the line. So you just want to make sure when you're using your grinder, you're cutting on the inside of the line of the bend, because then it'll come up and then you'll get your desired size that you want. It is 2 mil as well, so we can easily hammer and dolly this all flat, which is what I'll do. Slide our little guy in there, and we'll just throw this on top so we're not ruining the dies, and away we go. All right, so we have our pieces of the puzzle ready to go. This is our front cross member, and this is our rear. Again, I had mentioned I was only going to do the holes on this part. So when you look in, you will just still see the solid piece there, but everything will be painted and nice, and it's going to be one nice weld right along the back side. The areas, this one I didn't have to use the grinder to do like a little, to be able to make a location for it to start to break. I was able to get that in the brake itself. But with these ones where I have used the grinder on the backside, I will go in behind and just do a couple stitch welds just to make sure that they are held and are strong again. Again, this is not going to be crazy load bearing where these are. The whole unibody section is supported everywhere, but those ones that are in there are just way too thin and they're poorly damaged. So we need to make sure that we replace them. So what I'm going to do is just, I've cleaned everything up. Everything's method. Everything has been sanded. All the edges are clean, and we are able to get these mocked up and making sure everything is going to be square. All right, well, while we're waiting for the rear one to cool down, and I'm just gonna let that fully naturally cool down until it's touchable, and then we'll be able to remove the clamps, and that one will be good to go. We finished our front one. You saw all I did was weld it all up, and then I've just knocked a bit of the weld down. Obviously, taking into consideration while I was TIG welding to make sure we're getting really good penetration so it's coming through the backside and kind of rolling that edge over. That's gonna obviously help with, you know, not having to remove so much weld if you did wanna take it off with the grinder and the sander. So we are ready to get this guy installed. So biggest thing now is to get over onto the van. We need to remove that rear cross member that is in there now.
Look at that.
All right, so we got our piece finalized, weld through primer inside, all sealed up nicely, and I've just run through and drilled holes every 50 mil to make sure I got somewhere to spot weld to that flange that's there. You're probably watching in the video as well and seeing underneath parts of the floor are pretty rough, and they certainly are. Prior to us taking this van on from the client, there has been an extensive amount of work all underneath, and again, with a full replacement of the floor, lots of the substructure is put in. It may have not been done the right way, but it looks solid enough, and we're just kind of adding to it in those areas. So I think these two cross members were definitely one of the things that's underneath that at how it always needed to be done. What I'd like to do, if Ben jumps on under here, I was able to use that Galmet rust converter that I always use. I used a brush and was able to get it all in here just to stop all that surface rust, as well as put some weld through primer down and on our sides as well. So this is really ready to be popped up into place like so. And if we can get a couple of clamps on it just to hold it, we'll be able to level it off, square it off to the frame itself, and then we can start tacking it in. Again, this sheet metal is really thin, so we are using the MIG. I am using 030 wire, but we're just gonna try and get the penetration in where we can, but you can kind of get the idea. You know, I'm hoping notching this section out will allow a lot more air to be able to pass up and into the scoop for the radiator. Wait. All right, so cross members are in, both boxing plates are welded in, and the kind of structural part of that lower under half is all done now. So that's a major tick on the to-do list. Moving forward, we are going to be getting those wheels soon. You guys haven't seen them yet, but they are going to be something else. We got to get those fitted. All the door locking and latching mechanisms and everything should be arriving in the next few days. So I will be able to get all the doors, the door handles, everything operating as they should. Moving to the back, everything chroming wise is still at the chromers. That should get back relatively soon. And then we are going to do a little bit of paint work so we can get some more stuff installed. For everyone that's been wanting to know, and us as well, we want to hear this thing fire up. We want to hear that exhaust. So it's going to be really excited to get all that stuff situated and laid out and in place so we can, you know, have all the access to the gauges and the fans and everything to make sure that we can run this motor in. Massive shout out to Garth Hickey for winning last month's Builder Series, I'll call it. For you guys that may have missed it, he is doing a 335 replica Ferrari push car that will be 12 volt powered, which is really neat. And it's for a friend of his son who has a few disabilities, and he wants to be able to push him around in style, which is really cool. So for everyone else, this month is still running. Make sure you guys get your submissions in, submit them to this email here. And yeah, we're excited to see what you guys are creating at home.